Hello, students. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we are going to start our new topic, and that one is the making of nationalism in Europe. And in previous video lecture, we have completed our topic, the French Revolution and the idea of nation. So, let's start. Now, the making of nationalism in Europe. But before that, we need to understand the composition of Europe that was divided into various kingdoms, the duchies, and cantons. Canton means a small territorial division of a country. So cantons were ruled by who those rulers who had their autonomous territories. Moreover, there were people who spoke different languages. Eastern and Central Europe were under autocratic monarchies within the territories of which lived diverse people. Germany, Italy, and Switzerland were divided into kingdoms, duchies, and cantons. They were ruled by different rulers. Eastern and Central Europe was under autocratic kingdoms within the territories of which lived diverse people. These people had nothing in common. Actually, they did not share any collective identity or a common culture. All of them had different languages and were from different ethnic groups. For example, your Habsburg Empire. Habsburg Empire that had its rule over Austria. Hungary was composed of different regions and people. It include Alpine region, Tyrol, Austria, Switzerland, Bohemia. In these areas, the aristocrats, it means a member of the highest social class, often with a special title. So, in these areas, the aristocrats were German speaking, whereas it also included Lombardy and Venetia, where spoke Italian. On the other hand, in Hungary, half of the population spoke Magyar, while the other half spoke a variety of dialects. In Galicia, the aristocrats spoke Polish. Even the peasants that lived in these areas were from the different ethnic groups. So now we can easily understand that there was nothing common among these groups. The only common thing was that they had loyalty to the common emperor. Therefore, the question here arises is as to how the idea of nationalism arose in these parts then. For that, we have to understand how the society of these places were divided and what were the issues faced by the common people. Now, next topic, and that one is the aristocracy and new middle class. So, the aristocrats, I already told the meaning of this aristocrats. It means a member of highest social class, often with a special title. So, aristocrats were the rich class that was a dominating class in Europe. The members of this society had a common way of life. They were the owners of estates in the villages and also big houses. They spoke French, and their families most of the time had matrimonial alliances. However, this group was small in number. The major population is comprised of peasants. The western part of the land was farmed by tenants and small owners, whereas the eastern part and the land in the Central Europe was cultivated by serfs. During this time period, the western part and the Central Europe experienced industrial growth. There was a growth of many towns and group of commercial classes emerged on the scene. So during the 19th century, the new social groups came into being. They were a working class population and middle class made up of industrialists, businessmen, and professionals. The idea of nationalism grew stronger among these were the educated, liberal middle class groups. Till now, we have discussed that people in different parts of Europe wanted to have liberal nationalism in their countries. Now, again, one question arises that What exactly do we mean by liberal nationalism? So, the liberal nationalism. What did liberal nationalism stand for? During the early 19th century, the idea of nationalism and liberalism were closely related to the Europeans. The word liberalism is derived from the Latin word liber, which means free. In Europe, the new middle class saw liberalism as freedom for the individual and equality of all before the law. They all stressed for the government elected by the people. Since French Revolution took place, the term liberalism has taken shape into a new meaning, the end of autocracy and clerical privileges. It also meant the framing of constitution and formation of government through parliament. 19th century liberals also laid stress upon the right to property. Though people were granted equality before the law, still the right to vote was not granted equally to all citizens. Even in France, when French Revolution took place and people were granted the right of equality before the law, the right to vote was not given to everyone. Only the men with property had the right to vote. Men without property and women were excluded from this. It was only for a short period under Jacobins that all adult men with or without property enjoyed right to vote. Later on, when Napoleon came into power and he introduced Napoleonic Code in 1804, the right of suffrage was limited back to few members of society. Under this code, women were taken as minor as they were subject to the authority of fathers and husbands. So they had no right to vote. This led to various movements by women and non propertied men demanded equal political rights. According to the business point of view, means freedom of market and abolition of various types of taxes on the movement of goods and capital. The freedom of markets and abolition of state imposed restrictions was a huge demand made by the new middle class. To understand this, we should take the example of German speaking region in the first half of the 19th century. There were about 39 princely states in this region during the first half of the 19th century, and each state had its own currency and weight and measures. If a trader was traveling from Habsburg to Nuremberg in 1833 to sell his goods, he had to pay customs duty of 5% at 11 custom barriers. During duties were levied according to the weight or measurement of the goods. Each region had different standards of weight and measures, so it took a lot of time to calculate the duty. This demand resulted in the formation of a customs union or Zollverein. The demand for Zollverein was first made by Prussia. Later on, German states also joined Prussia with the same demand. The custom union abolished the traffic barriers and reduced the number of currencies from 30 to 2. Railways were developed that harnessed economic interest to national unification. The economic nationalism to strengthen the nationalist sentiments during that time. While so many changes were taking place in Europe, one more thing happened there that made government work towards the philosophy of conservatism. Conservatism is a political view that favors free enterprise, private ownerships, and socially conservative ideas. What was that incident that brought the philosophy of conservatism? Napoleon Bonaparte, who had earlier acquired major part of Europe, was defeated in the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. The battle was fought between Napoleon and the forces of Britain and Prussia. So when Napoleon was defeated, European government decided to establish conservative form of government. And the conservatives believed that established traditional institution of states and society such as the monarchy, the church, social hierarchies, etc. should be maintained as they were. Most of the conservatives believed that modernization can strengthen traditional institutions like monarchy. They had a view that following changes can strengthen the autocratic monarchy of Europe, like modern army, efficient bureaucracy, dynamic economic, abolition of feudal and serfdom. So, with this point of view, representative of European powers such as Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Austria met in Vienna in 1815. This came to be known as the Congress of Vienna. These were those powers who had collectively defeated Napoleon, and they met at Vienna to draw up a settlement for Europe. The Congress was hosted by the Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich. The delegates drew up the Treaty of Vienna of 1815, which reversed most of the changes that came in Europe during the Napoleonic War, and this one is between 1799 to 1815. Followings were the important decision taken by the Congress of Vienna. First is Bourbon dynasty was restored to power. Louis XVI was made the monarch of France. France lost the territories it had acquired under Napoleon. And third, a series of states were set up on the boundaries of France to prevent French expansion in future. Thus, with the new arrangement, some territorial changes were seen, such as the Kingdom of Netherlands, which included Belgium, was set up in the north, and Genoa was added to Piedmont in the south. Prussia, which was given important new territories on its western frontier, while Austria was given northern Italy. On the other hand, the German Confederation of 39 states that had been set up by Napoleon was left untouched. In the east, Russia was given part of Poland and Prussia was given a part of Saxony. The main aim behind this arrangement was to restore the monarchies that had been taken over by the Napoleon and creative conservative from form of rulership in Europe. The conservative rule formed in 1815 was oppressive. They were highly intolerant towards criticism and disagreement. They started curbing down the activities against them. Even censorship laws were imposed on newspapers, books, plays, and songs that favored the idea of liberty and freedom associated with the French Revolution. But all this could not stop various liberal activities from citizens criticizing the new conservative rule, and they started seeking for freedom of the press. So now we know that the conservatives had once again established the rule of monarch in Europe. But did it stop the revolutionaries from demanding liberty and nationalism? How did these revolutionaries work for their right of liberty? Let's check this. The revolutionaries. So, after 1815, the fear of repression from the ruling conservative class drove the liberal nationalist underground. They start forming up secret societies in different European states. The main aim of these societies was to spread the idea of liberty and nationalism. They were against the monarchical form of rulership that was the result of Vienna Congress. Many of them were aimed to create nation states and made it an important part of their freedom struggle. Giuseppe Mazzini was one of these revolutionaries who was a member of one of these secret society. He was born in Genova in 1807. He became a member of this society, secret society for of the Carbonari. At the age of 24, he was sent into exile for attempting a revolution in Liguria in the year 1831. Later on, Mazzini founded two more underground societies, namely Young Italy in Marshall and Young Europe in Berne. The members of this society were the like minded young men from Poland, France, Italy, and the German state. Mazzini did not want Italy to be a patchwork of small states and kingdoms. So, he made it his aim to unify Italy. For this, he starts setting up secret societies in Germany, France, Switzerland, and Poland. Mazzini non-stop opposition toward monarchy and his vision of bringing democratic republic was a reason of fear among many conservatives. Metternich once had described him as the most dangerous enemy of our social order. So now we know that revolutionaries had started their own attempts to get rid of the conservative rule. But what happened next? Next came the period of the revolution in which various revolutionaries fought right for their rights and tried to free themselves from the clutches of the conservatives. So this is all about the topic making of nationalism in Europe. Till then, this side Kesha Kushwaha signing off. Take care. Bye bye.